Entity number 001, nicknamed Chuckle. The current description is as follows. The most current sighting of this entity was in a suburban neighborhood in Redacted. The date was redacted, and the sole remaining witness claimed they encountered it in the afternoon. E001 is a vaguely humanoid entity measuring approximately 7 feet in height. For the most part, the entity shows consistent proportions to the human anatomy. According to witness testimony, the subject has an extra set of arms that are connected to the shoulder. These sets of arms were grossly out of proportion, with the guessed length of 7 feet each. E001's code name was derived from the subject's testimony, in which the entity begin quotes, "Hunted my group. As Emily and I ran from the forest towards the oncoming car, it kept making that noise. Even when the car picked us up, it did not stop. It never stopped. It sounded like chuckling, like it was amused by what was happening." End quote. The sole survivor, Jessica, last name redacted, was placed in therapy since the incident. However, current reports show that, while Jessica shows remarkable progress, the sounds produced by E001 continues to appear for Jessica at unspecified times. Current research is unable to determine if the sound heard afterward is a sign of psychological trauma or another method of the entity. The first sighting was in 1917, located in the European theater in the aftermath of World War I. The entity was described by an American soldier when stepping out of camp. Notable differences from the most current description is that the entity lacked eyes and had a, begin quote, literal smile from ear to ear, end quote. The entity was seen walking spider-like near the collected corpses. Redacted often stated that the entity was seen collecting teeth from the fallen veterans. At that present time, Redacted was placed in a hospital for mental trauma. The Redacted organization was notified of the patient's history after the patient vanished with no trace. All attempts at finding the patient were futile. The only other sighting was in inner-city New York in 1968 in the back of an alleyway. This was reported by a private investigator for Redacted while tracking a potential other entity in the area. Immediately after E001 was seen, the entity scurried up a neighboring wall. No other significant details were reported other than the arms and lack of eyes. Entity 001 may belong to a family of human-like entities that share a similar-like structure. Given the current situation, the Redacted organization has placed all known cases of E-001 as a single entity. This file is subject to further edits. There are things lurking in the forests and in the shadows, but more often than not, those things are out and about, interacting with thousands of people. In this world, even before mankind, there have been oddities, freaks, entities, things that never made much sense. Sometimes we call them super beings, other times they are monsters. We can see them in books or on the screen, and often lay in bed with the acknowledgement that the things that bump at night aren't a monster. But not everyone is as fortunate. There is a kernel of truth in every story. There are thousands upon thousands of things out there that can't be explained. Even with every piece of technology we have, there is something unexplainable. The Redacted organization seeks to find those things that really do wander the streets and go bump in the night. Whether it's to capture, kill, or contain, there is only one objective. The following section is part of a log submitted by Redacted. Are you sure Redacted sent us the right coordinates? When have they not, Fedora? Both of you stuff it. General was an older gentleman, the salt and pepper look only highlighting the stern wrinkles on his forehead. Kyle, go place the cameras on the coordinates specified. Kyle only nodded, slipping away into the darkening forest. The sky above was painted in a sweet orange, the clouds thin wisps floating in the horizon. Fedora looked at the edge of the road, keeping an eye on the incoming traffic. Everything was covered in a sticky silence, not a single car driving down the road. The redacted file. What's the plan for the Kyle boy? Keeping an eye on the forest, General rumbled. First entity for the boy, not the worst they could throw at him. In the distance, the light of a car appeared over a nearby hill. What would you rate the thing? You go first, youngling. Based on previous objectives, probably a lower class entity, Fedora said. General only grunted in agreement. A few seconds later, Kyle stomped himself back from the forest line. The sky now painted in various shades of blue and orange. He says, "Cam's in place." Then we move out. The sky was now a deep blue, with the forest's shade casting dark shadows all around. The endless crunching of twigs and leaves rustled the silence, each thump only highlighting silent oppressiveness. If I'm remembering correctly, Fedora said, the entity appeared after the girls set camp. So where are we gonna set up? This seems like a great spot, Kyle says. Based on the redacted guidelines, the trees are spaced far enough to account for the clear view while staying up to guard, and General lifts up his hands and cuts Kyle off. That's the textbook answer, kid. When dealing with these things, the best thing to do is find somewhere that is trappable. General points at the small system of rocks in the clearing up ahead. Set camp in a standard triangle formation if possible, and get the computers up. We're going to need it to keep an eye on the surroundings. Fed, set up the motion sensors. As the camp starts to come into shape, Fedora went and dug up the folder again. Flipping through it, he settles on a sketch of E001. This thing seems familiar to redacted and redacted. Seems like a lower classification than both, to be honest with you guys. Eyes ever focused on the lit embers of the campfire, Kyle murmurs, "How about we bag it first, right? It is our only objective." Fedora, I got the cams. Get the gears we need in the bag. Kyle, once you get the fire, the General commanded, his hands clicking through each cam on the screen. Create a cursory plan. Kyle himself now grabs the discarded folder and starts skimming through the pages. I'm just going to speak out loud for a bit. Ignore me, he shouts. After a quick thumbs up from the General, given what we know about E001, the creature seems to have the most physical significant aspect of the entity is its upper set of arms. If it gets a range, it nearly prevents shorter range weapons. If Kyle shoots Fedora a look, "Can you get the blasters out?" Fed laughs and holds up a blaster. Not a bad starting plan, but you missed the biggest part. His chuckles. There isn't much on the files, youngling, so don't get wrapped up about planning for it, General states. Use the earplugs given by the higher-ups. How are we going to find it then? Kyle's eyes dart to the surrounding trees. For that, Fed said, I got a plan. I hate this so much. Oh, shut up, Kyle. Fed smirks at him from across the campsite. Just keep reading the book. Flipping through the book that Fedora had, Kyle reads another, out loud. I caught my son chewing electrical cords, so I had to ground him. He is currently doing better and is now conducting himself properly. Ha ha, ha ha ha, ha ha ha, Fedora shouts. So funny. General also lets loose a rumbling laugh. Kyle, on the other hand, groans. Can somebody else read? I hate this, Kyle mutters. Within seconds, the camp goes quiet. The motion cameras activated, with only the sounds of the campfire hanging in the air. In the corner of the camp, hidden in the shadows, stood E001, Just like the file indicated, the 7-foot entity had 2 sets of arms and only a mouth on the face. What the files didn't indicate was that the mouth was filled with rows and rows of needle-like teeth. Sensing the change in the camp atmosphere, E001 crouches near a tent. Without warning, General starts laughing again. His booming laugh carries in the dark forest. A couple of seconds later, Fedora starts laughing as well, all while getting a grip on his blaster. Hearing the sounds, Chuckle walks towards the camp, each footstep indiscernible from the surrounding noise. Kyle nervously hoists his gun up and puts his finger on the trigger. Chuckle slips ever so closely until he stands only a couple of feet from Kyle, neatly hiding in the ever-dark shadows. Without warning, Chuckles. Stepping into the camp light, E001 lashes out with both of its hands, grabbing Kyle and hauling him into the air. With Kyle screaming, Fedora and General unleash the blasters at the beast. Immediately, the situation gets complicated. The redacted blasters should have left huge holes within the entity's body, but the energy's weapons only left a few burn marks and didn't seem to deter the entity at all. The ensuing roars and screams as E001 and Kyle dart back into the woods were interrupted with blaster fire. To Kyle's luck, the blaster fire from General's gun strikes Chuckle in the mouth, causing it to drop Kyle. Just as quickly, firing a stun gun from the hip, Fedora strikes. In the ensuing quiet forest, the strangled noises coming from E001 were interrupted by the sudden lack of chaos. Panting, Kyle slumps over and empties his stomach. As General places redacted around E001's arms and muzzles it, Fedora rubs Kyle's back. Wasn't easy, he said. Could have been worse. Could have been a better situation, honestly, but, things happen. How you holding up? After a few seconds, yeah, Kyle says. General stands up and acknowledges Kyle with a nod. I already sent a message for a larger collection squad. You did well, even if it wasn't the greatest of experiences. Well, Kyle said, wiping his mouth. It wasn't. To the team. Kyle, now, Agent Jokes. You passed your first test. Fedora smiles. And you can be our team's bait in every situation going forward. Stay sharp, Fedora and Jokes. General turns towards the north. We still have to wait. Jokes sighs. I guess this is also part of the objective.